Sorry.
All right, we're live. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Author Chat. Today we're chatting again with a long-time comer, Sherry Ficklin. I think this is, what, the third time or fourth time you've been on, I think?
I think something like that, yeah. Isn't that ridiculous?
I know. I think you've got to be the, I think it's a run between you and Crystal Wade for the two people that have been on the most.
Nice.
All right. Well, if you don't know who Sherry Ficklin is, she is the author of a ton of different books. The Extracted series, Losing Logan, Queen of Someday, and then you have a couple of novella collections out as well, correct?
Okay. Yes, I have so many. Lots out.
I love all the covers. They're so pretty.
Aren't they beautiful? I wish I could take credit, but my cover artist is amazing, so bravo to her.
All right, so we'll start off. You can, I guess, tell us a little bit about the Queen of Someday, Queen of Tomorrow, and then we'll start in on the questions.
Sounds great. So the Stolen Empire series, it's a trilogy. The first books 1 and 2 are out now, and that's Queen of Someday and Queen of Always. And the third book, Queen of Tomorrow, just went live for pre-order. So that'll be out in September for ebook. I'm really excited about it. And this series it's a little bit interesting. It's a YA historical fiction, and there's very, very few like it, just because most of the time in YA, it's historical fiction fantasy, or it's historical fiction with sort of made-up history, but this is actually based on the life of young Catherine the Great of Russia. So there's not much like it in the genre. It's sort of very unique. And it's funny, I actually had gotten nominated this year for an award for YA fantasy, and I had to email them and be like, no, I appreciate the nomination, but it's not a fantasy. You can't classify it that way. And they're like, oh, we didn't even know. And I'm like, did you not read it? Did you just nominate it and not read it? It was a little crazy. So it's my baby, though. I'm excited about it. I just finished edits on Queen of Always today, and it just makes me sad.
All right. I'm tossing links in here right now. If you haven't read Queen of Someday, it is currently free on Amazon. Is it free anywhere else?
It's free on Kindle, Amazon, Nook, Barnes & Noble, and over on iBooks. So you can get it free across all platforms.
Okay, I need to go download that from iBooks, so I just have it everywhere.
I like iBooks. They're kind of new, but I really like their format. So it's been kind of fun getting to know iBooks a little bit.
And then, so all the links are now on the event page. You can find all of those. I got the pre-orders and purchase links all up. All right, so one of the questions that we've been getting, and I got it more than once, so I thought I'd ask that one first. People wanted to know about Sophie or Catherine the Great, and I remember that was my question a while back ago, because everybody watches the show Reign and stuff, about how do they differ because they're not the same person.
They are the same person. Sophie and Catherine, I mean, when Sophie came to Russia, it was very common when you are christened into a new religion. She came and her family was not Orthodox. And so when she was basically told that in order to become Peter's wife, she would have to convert, she converted, and part of that conversion is that you take a new name. I think even now Orthodox Jews kind of do the same thing, where they take a new name when they're converted to Orthodox. So it was very common at the time. And the name Catherine was actually chosen by Empress Elizabeth. That was her mother's name. So she chose that name for Sophie. It was really just sort of, I liked it because it was very visual of sort of letting go of the person you were and becoming this whole new person and sort of trying to figure out who that person is. So that's the story I wanted to tell, was her sort of becoming Catherine.
What about the thing about the, like, for people who are addicted to the show Reign and stuff, you know, you have Catherine the Great via what is it, England and stuff, and then this is Catherine the Great via Russia. That was the question that I had gotten a few times.
I don't remember a Catherine in England. There was probably a few. Catherine was a pretty common royal name. You know, in England, you have a lot of the Elizabeths. and a lot of the Marys. And I get a lot of parallels between my book and the show right, and I think it's an apt parallel because while they're both based on historical figures, I mean, a lot of liberties have been taken, but it's sort of telling that story of these really dynamic monarchs for a young adult audience, which I don't think has been done nearly enough, because most of the time in that period, they were very young when they took over their countries. You know, Mary, Queen of Scots, I think she became queen when she was something like 2 weeks old or something ridiculous. So I love telling the stories of those younger royals. I think that's a sort of an untapped potential market.
So you have a shout out from Jan Farnworth. Of course, she wanted to say hello.
Okay.
And then the next question is, what is your favorite scene or character?
Oh, so many. So many favorites. I think my favorite scene so far is actually in the final book, so I don't want to get too much into that, but I will say that I had so much fun writing it that I wrote it 3 different ways. So I may put the extras on my website of what didn't make it into the book. Basically, there was a character that I'd been wanting to kill since book 1, and I finally killed that character in book 3, and I wrote it 3 different ways. There were 3 different deaths of this character, and I picked the one that I liked the most to put in the book, but then there's 2 other scenes that are fully written, so I may go ahead and put those on the website because that was just my favorite.
Okay, the next question is, in book 1, after all the chapters, there's those little extra videos that I was addicted to. I'm really happy that I had the Kindle Fire so I could actually play those. Are those strictly just in that ebook, or is there another place that we can actually find those?
The videos are on the ebook, and they are also, you can find them in the Clean Teen website. If you go to the Clean Teen website and look for Queen of Someday, you can find them there. Or you can, if you have the expanded print edition, there are QR codes in the print edition that you can scan with your smartphone and watch the videos on your smartphone. So you can get them that way also. They are only in book 1 though, so they're not. We don't have any in the following books.
Here, those were awesome.
I know, I loved them, and I wish we could have done it. The files were just huge. The files, when we started uploading them to Kindle and stuff, people were having a really hard time to have, like, the older readers, like the first generation Kindles and Nooks, weren't able to download the files because they were just massive. So just to sort of save from having people not be able to do that, we decided not to put them in the new books.
Do you think that you'll ever go back and make videos and, like, just pop them on, like, YouTube or something?
You know, it's probably, I'm such a nerd about it. I love offering stuff like that, and they'll probably end up on my website at some point.
They're awesome. I really did like those because, I mean, each one, you know, told you a little bit more about that specific chapter, which it was really nice to have those extras about you telling everybody, you know, exactly what had actually happened versus, you know, what was in your book if it had changed.
Yeah. I think it's nice just for the people that want to know the real history, because I do take a lot of liberties, particularly with the timeline. I condense the timeline quite a bit. So it's nice to be able to, you know, offer a little bit of the research that I did going into the book to the readers.
The next is actually a question. Jan wants to know if she can see the kitten.
Oh, yeah, hold on 1 second. I did put it in your face.
Kitties.
Oh, he wants to see the baby. This is one of my little guys. They're all in my office right now. I have so many. I'm just gonna snuggle her right now. Continue with the questions.
We have a mascot for this show.
That's right. Yes, this is Bravo. She's my little fatty. I have to look at them to remember which one is which. So this is Bravo. We gave them military designations instead of names since we're not keeping all of them. So we have Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Charlie, and Echo.
Hey, you know what? Whatever works.
That's right. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Okay. The next question is, how did your family feel when you decided to start writing?
It's funny. They went through this period where they were really super supportive, and then they realized how much actual work it is, and then they were less supportive, and then I started getting royalties, and then they were more supportive again. So it was an interesting transition. My kids thought it was really cool at first, and now not at all. And my husband's just glad that I'm doing something that's, you know, I used to write fan fiction, and And he really had an issue with me spending so much time on something that wasn't like my own stuff. So he's just glad that I'm telling my own stories now.
The next one is, do you have another job, or do you write full time?
No, I write full time, though I have 4 kids also, so that's sort of a job. And it's probably the hardest job. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to write full time this year. There was sort of touch and go there for a while. I was afraid that maybe I'd have to go back to work full time, but then the Queen books just took off, and so I've been really blessed to be able to stay home with my kids and work from home.
It's because they're awesome. Okay, let's see. Are you similar to your main character?
I think I'm always a little bit similar to my main characters. I think whenever you write a character, main character, secondary character, even your villains, I think there's always a little bit of you in there. I will say that particularly with Sophie, I tried really hard to sort of stay true to how I thought Catherine would react in situations and what she would say and do, but she has quite a bit of modernness to her also that I think comes from just me. So I think there's a fair amount of me in the characters.
Are your characters based on anyone you know in real life?
Sometimes. I will say Losing Logan, every character in Losing Logan is a real person that I really know. And the same actually goes for my Chasing series that I do. It's new adult under my pen name Renee Glass. And those are all based on my actual family. So a lot of times I will actually take real people and throw them into my books, friends and family. And they always seem to think that they're somebody they're not. You know, it's funny. My aunt will be like, "Oh, you know, is this me?" And I'm like, "No, that's not you at all. You're this other character." And they're like, "I'm not like that." So it's kind of fun. Squirmy.
The next question is, how do you deal with writer's block?
Alcohol. No, just kidding. Copious amounts of caffeine and self-deprecation. Writer's block is just miserable. I tend to get less than writer's block. I tend to just get into these massive waves of procrastination where I know I can sit down and write, but I don't really have the desire to. And anytime I hit a block like that, I'll just kind of get out and just try and, go for a hike, or if I'm working on a project, I'll dive into some research, just anything I can do to get my brain spinning in the right direction again. I'm working right now on an outline for a jazz book. And so I took some time this week to go down to the antique store and get some jazz albums and stuff like that, because that kind of stuff really helps when I get into a writing slump. I know, she's so sad.
Keep crying.
I know, she's so sad.
See, the next question is, what inspired you to become a writer?
I feel like I've been writing forever. I don't know. I took a creative writing class in high school and I just fell in love with it. And I kept writing into adulthood, again, mostly fan fiction or short stories. I never really thought about publishing anything. That was never something that occurred to me that I could do. But I think that readers especially tend to be very naturally writers, especially if they're also a little bit controlling. I loved books. I got into fan fiction because I wanted to be able to change the endings, or I wanted to be able to explore characters that weren't in the books. So it was partly my love of books and partly my love of being a control freak that got me into writing. Let me give her back to her mom real quick. Here, baby. I see Mama. I see Mama, kitty. Sorry, I'm wheeling myself around my office like a crazy person.
I do the same thing because I hate computer chairs because they make you want to lay back. So I have this little mini wheelchair that I sit in. Hey, it works. That's all that matters.
Right?
I can just wheel myself wherever. Okay, yeah. The next question is, let's see, that one you kind of already answered. Okay, so who is your favorite author?
Oh, that's so impossible. I love so many different types of books, and I love so many authors that I know. I don't think I could possibly pick one. That's like asking who your favorite child is. My favorite recently, I'm in love with Dawn Dalton. She did Anne and Henry, which is sort of a modern day spin on Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. I love it. I love it so much. I keep rereading it because I just think it's fantastic. But I fall in and out of love with authors every day.
Next question is, what is your favorite book quote?
That's tough. I remember in high school they made us read My Antonia, and there was this line in that book, and I know I'm just gonna butcher it, but the main character is saying like that he'd never seen the sky without mountains behind it, and yet here he was sort of traveling in the plains, and he said, and now I can see the entire dome of the heavens. And I always thought that was really powerful. I was a city girl, so I didn't see my first stars until I was like 12. So I that always sort of resonated with me, that sort of awe of seeing the stars for the first time.
Let's see. If you wrote a middle grade novel, what would it be about?
I don't know. I suck at middle grade. I've legitimately tried middle grade, and about the closest I've ever gotten is Extracted, and even that's definitely not middle grade. I don't know. See, and that's tough. I don't know what I don't read middle grade, so I couldn't even give you an idea.
Ooh, good middle grade book, The School for Good and Evil. That is like the best book ever.
I heard it's fantastic.
Awesome. Book three just came out.
It just got optioned for film too, so I'm excited. Hopefully that'll just be coming out.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, is it going to be real people, or are they going to make it, like cartoon, since it is middle grade?
Yeah, that's a good question. That would make a really good anime, but I don't know. We'll see.
But yeah, if you don't know about middle grade, read that, because it's awesome.
Got it. I'll put it on my list, my very, very long list.
Everything you see the end of the book, that is my to-be read list. It's actually gone down.
Yeah, I saw it. Congratulations.
Okay, what kind of fan fiction did you write?
I wrote Harry Potter fan fiction actually for a long time. I did Harry Potter fan fiction, and then then later on I did like some early Percy Jackson fan fiction. I guess that's technically middle grade. I never really thought of it as middle grade. And this is super embarrassing. And I used to do like V.C. Andrews fan fiction, which is just disturbing in itself. Don't ask it. We shall not speak of those fan fictions.
All right. The next question is, if Sophie came to our time period and had to teach a history class, what do you think she'd teach about?
Sex ed, probably. For those of you who know the real history behind Catherine the Great, she was a very sexual person. And we touch a little bit on that in the book, not as much because I felt like that was more later in her life. But, definitely people give me a hard time. They said she falls in and out of love so much. True, but that's kind of who she was and that's how she lived. So I think probably sex ed.
Right. You said that you sped up the timeline. So in her actual life, if you were going by that, how old would she have been in the two books by the time that it ended with book 2?
So we started off correctly. So she was actually 15 when she came to Russia, 16 when she got married. And then they lived in Orenbaum Court for years. So by the time we end the second book, she would have been in her 30s in real life. So, but in my book, she's not. She's like 20, I think, by the end of the second book. So, by the end of the third book.
Oh,
go ahead.
How old will she be by the end of the third book?
Let's see, 2 years past, 16, 17, 18, early 20s by the end. Though there's an epilogue that takes place several years later. So,
will we get any novellas?
I don't think we're going to do novellas. However, there is a prequel that I'm working on it's called The Other Elizabeth, and it's about the rise to power of Empress Elizabeth from the first book. I wanted to tell her story. I wanted to see more of Sergei, sort of before they both got really jaded. And her story, much like Catherine's, is so amazing, how she sort of rose to power and what she had to do to seize the throne. I just love that. I love those sort of backstabbing court politics, blood and guts stories, especially from the female protagonists.
Out of the 3 books, which one is your favorite cover?
Oh, that's not fair. Probably the first one. You know, we had sort of gone back and forth about concept ideas, and we couldn't find something that I really liked. And finally she was like, you know what? I got this. Let me pick something and I'll send it to you. And she sent it, and I just cried. Like, I just sobbed like a crazy person when I saw the first cover. So that was probably my favorite, the first one.
What made you want to write about Catherine the Great? Was there any particular moment in time when you learned about her life and thought, wow, I have to write about her? Or was there some other inspiration?
Yeah, no, I was doing research for the Extracted books, which also feature some of the Romanov family members. And so I was looking at their line genetically back through their line. And I came across Catherine's story then. And I knew that I wanted to tell it right away. Like, as soon as I started reading about her, I knew I wanted to tell her story. So I sort of set that aside, and we finished the Extracted stuff. And then I went back and started tinkering with it. And initially I had sort of put it aside because I thought there was no real audience for that kind of historical YA. And then Rain came out and was so popular that I decided to go ahead and shop it. So I actually started shopping right after I think I saw the pilot of the show, and realized that you could actually do that for YA and it would work and people would enjoy it. So that kind of gave me the confidence boost to get it out there.
Jan, I love you because I was just about to ask that same exact question that she just posted. How far apart is the Catherine the Great story all the way to Anastasia? And she's like, what, her great beyond great grandmother or something, or?
Yeah, I think it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5 generations removed. So yeah, pretty far.
Like, how many years is that? Is like 100 years?
It's almost, yeah, it's right around 100 years. Right around 100 years.
Do you think that you'll ever do a story for Anastasia?
I did. If you read Extracted, you'll see some of the other Romanovs in that one.
Do you think that you'll ever come back to like a specific story about Anastasia that coincides with, you know, the Queen of Someday and stuff?
That's just straight historical? Probably not. Probably not. You know, when I read the story of Anastasia and her family, my initial thought is, oh, missing children. They're obviously time travelers, because that's just the way my brain works. So I don't think that I would go back and then retell that story, because I don't think there's actually a whole lot of story to tell. You know, she was only, what, 12, I think? So initially, I don't think there's a lot of story there to tell, just from a historical standpoint. Maybe that'll be my middle grade.
Or it could be a fantasy.
There you go. No, I feel like I've sort of told that story the way I wanted to tell it, so I don't think I'll go back to Anastasia again.
Let's see. They want to know, can we access your fan fiction anywhere?
No. Most of it got pulled off. There was like a fan fiction website way back in like early 2000 that it used to all be up on, and that site died a long time ago. And I don't even think, you know, several computer crashes later, that I don't even think I still have most of it. I have some of it. I have a couple pieces of like Twilight fan fiction that I had done, and then I do some like Green Arrow fan fiction. And I think that's all I still have on my computer. And I don't actually publish them anywhere anymore, because like the idea of someone actually going, oh, she wrote this, is terrifying to me, because fan fiction, you know, in its very nature is so ridiculously awful sometimes.
Jan's like, boo, boo, we want Anastasia.
Extracted then. She's in there.
What do you enjoy most about writing?
I really like meeting readers. You know, I love traveling and doing the conventions, just because it's such a blast to sort of, it's weird when you create a story, when you create a world, and then you meet people that like it as much as you do and are as invested in the characters as you are. That's so trippy. It's really weird, and I just love it. I think that's the best thing ever. So
do you have any signings for this year that we can come and stalk you?
Oh, I've done so many signings this year. The only one I have left this year is I'm doing RomCon in Denver in September. And I'm not specifically there to sign, but I will be there doing some panels. So if you catch me at one of the panels, I will be happy to sign a book for you after the panel or before the panel, or just stalk me in the bathroom. That's happened before. So yeah, just come find me.
No, that's funny because I'm going to GeekyCon this Friday, and I'm like, there's like 5 or 6 people that I want to get stuff signed from, and I'm like, you're only allowed to do 1 book per author. I'm like, can I just like follow you to the bathroom? You know, you eventually have to pee. You just sign everything in like the handicap bathroom, and then I'll leave.
It's so funny. I got bathroom fangirled for the first time this year, and it was equally exciting and terrifying. So it was fun.
Let's see. Of course, Jan wants you to come to Washington. I want you to come to the East Coast. You need a vacation in Florida. That's all there is to it.
That's very true. Could always use a vacation in Florida. I don't do a lot on the East Coast just because for some reason from Colorado, anywhere flying east is costs like a kidney. But I can fly west all day long for like nothing. But if I fly east, like even just to Denver from where I live is east, and it's like $1,000. So it's ridiculously expensive.
Oh my God.
So I tend to only do like 1 East Coast conference a year. And this year it was, this year I actually ended up doing 2 because BEA was in New York this year, which I did. And then I did Utopia in Nashville. So those were my 2 East Coasts this year.
Will you be going to BEA next year?
Yeah, but it's in Chicago next year.
Ooh. We're going.
Yeah, I'll be there. It's going to be great.
Okay, people. Everybody knows who you are. I don't care about the hitchhike. We're going to BEA to go see Sherry. Let's see. Would you change or add anything to any of your series?
I would always change and add, which is why, as a rule, once the book is edited and turned in as final edits, I never read it again. So once I get the paperback, I never, ever go through it again because inevitably I find things I want to change or things I want to add to or things I want to tweak, and I can't. At that point, it's done, and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's a really mental problem for me when I go in and reread a book because there's always something. Hindsight is always 20/20, and I want to go back in and change things, and I can't. So.
That happens a lot. That's why people ask me like, well, do you watch your show? And I'm like, no, I don't, because then I'll remember. It's like, oh, well, I wanted to ask this and I didn't do it. And then I feel bad.
Yeah.
See,
exactly.
How do you get into your writing mood and what is your favorite snack and drink?
Oh, good heavens. So the writing mood is different for each story. I create vision boards when I'm working on a project, and I kind of keep those either in front of my desk or behind it, so it's kind of a quick visual for me. But music is good. I just got my first record player so that I could play records for the jazz, because I was told that you have to play jazz on vinyl or it doesn't sound right. And listening to it digitally and then on vinyl, I can totally see the difference. So I'm doing that. And then sometimes it's, certain scented candles. For the Queen books, there was a lot of like lavender scented candles happening. And I used to wear my tiara when I would write, just because something about the weight of it on my head made me kind of get into the character a little bit more. So I know it sounds completely crazy, but there's a million different things I'll try to just get into the character.
Sorry, we had a spam comment on YouTube. How do you go take it off? It's like, run.
I don't even know how that happens.
It happens. All right, the next question
I would love to try Canadian Viagra. Sorry,
No, it said something about shake it in your thong or something. And I'm like, I don't have thongs. Sorry. It is Granny Panties here.
Probably just from my brothers.
From the Sweet Voices. Let's see. Yeah. Who is your biggest fan?
It's like I'm gonna get kicked because if I say anybody, then all the others are gonna be like, no, it's me.
Who is one of your favorite fans? You can list more.
I know. Of course, you and Jan Farnsworth, who I love, and Ethan Gregory, who I love, and Christina Marie, who I love, and Sarah Bird, who I love. There's so many. You guys are awesome. I have so many. It's hard to pick. I love you guys. I love you guys.
We love you and your stories. You know, because I had that confession back when I read book 1 that was the first book that I had actually ever read from you. So
Yes.
it was awesome. See, now I have to read the rest. Let's see,
There you go.
Jan says she loves Tiara Tuesday.
Yes.
Let's see, what was your favorite part to write in both books?
I really like the scenes with Alexander. People are going to shoot me. I love Alexander as a character because he's equally good and terrible for her. So that was really fun. I love, because I feel like it's sort of that first love, which is really sort of crazy and spontaneous and reckless and all consuming, you know, that sort of that ridiculous first love. And that's always so much fun to write for me because you only get that once, really. You know, you can fall in love several times in your life, but that first love is just, it really makes an impact on you, and it really sort of partially defines how you're going to, you know, do the rest of your relationships for the rest of your life, based on sort of what you learn from that relationship. So that's always really fun for me to play with. So anytime I get to bring Alexander back in and just sort of torture everybody with him for a while, I like to parade him around for that.
Now, did Alexander in that situation actually happen?
No, that's the one part of the book that I really strictly made up was Alexander. She had several boyfriends in her life, and Sergei was one, and there was another one that's in book 3 that gets briefly mentioned, and but Alexander was very much my own creation, just in that obviously she had suitors. Even in her autobiography, she talked about there was a suitor that would literally ride 40 miles a day each way to come and spend an hour with her for tea. And they kept telling her, like, you've got to send him away and you've got to discourage this. And she was like, oh, he's fine. And she really loved sort of the attention. So in my mind, I feel like she was probably kind of a flirt and probably had, you know, a relationship before she got married, because that wasn't really a relationship at all. So I knew that something like that was probably pretty accurate, but nobody's going to cop to that, you know, when they're 60 years old writing their autobiography that they, you know, almost ran away before they got married. So
I think it would be really cool to have a novella about Alexander and what happened after he got married off and they left.
You know, he comes back for book 3, so we see him sort of quite a bit in the 3rd book. So it's an interesting dynamic when we get into book 3, because we've suddenly got lots of people in play.
Let's see. We've got 2 people who want spoilers. Jan wants to know, please tell us Sophie gets to finish off the queen in the end of book 3.
The queen dies really, really early in book 3. And while she definitely hastened that along, at the end of the day, it wasn't immediate. It took longer than everybody had hoped for her to finally kick the bucket. So she definitely, I feel like, had a part in her death. Like, she gave her a stroke, basically, but she lived for a little while still after that. But she does die really early in book 3.
And Misty wants to know, can you give us any spoilers for book 3? Does Sophie end up alone in the end?
No. Yes and no. Sophie is sort of always surrounded by friends and people that care about her. And in book 3, we see a lot of switching. A lot of people that were people she trusted are sort of now people she can't trust. And a lot of people that she never was able to trust are now people that she has to rely on. And so we see a lot of sort of changing of the guard in that aspect in book 3. And I think that by the end of book 3, she's really standing on her own 2 feet, and she doesn't really need anybody else. And I'm not going to lie, I kill a lot of people in book 3. A lot of people in book 3 don't make it. It's funny, I was writing it, and I literally wrote all the death scenes first, and then I went through and wrote the rest of the book. Like, everybody that died really early on, and then I went through and filled in the rest of the book. So
Fill in the gaps.
That was great fun for me. Yeah, as far as spoilers, the only really big spoiler I'm going to give is that there is a scene in book 3 that has never been done in a YA book before, ever. So, and it earned me a new rating, which is YAM+. So, take from that what you will.
Well,
Well, you have to think about who she was, you know, in her later years. And the actual Catherine the Great had an entire room filled with like random sex furniture and stuff. So while obviously we don't touch on it to that degree, she was very much, you know, a person that enjoyed her nookie time. So we have a scene.
So it's like 50 Shades of Catherine the Great then?
Pretty close. It's pretty close. It's so funny because everybody's like, because I took it to my publishers a little concerned, and they were like, well, you know, can we just pull that scene out? And I said, no, not really. It kind of needs to be there because it you know, it actually, the story actually progresses pretty organically from there. But, and then they were like, well, it's done tastefully, so we'll just leave it at that. So it's like, okay.
I'm gonna like get to this, and I'm gonna be like tweeting you those GIF thingies, being like, oh.
Yes, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. And people are gonna love it, and people are gonna hate it, and I'm unrepentant. I don't even care. Because in my head, it made the most sense as far as what was gonna be happening with everybody.
Right. The next question is there another historical part of history that you would like to write about?
Yeah, so the new book, the jazz book, is actually 1920s Prohibition era, and so I'm doing that. And right now, I think it's a standalone, but I mean, I won't know till I get to the end of it. I'm pretty sure it's a standalone, and then I'm gonna go back and do the Empress's story. And I don't know if I'm gonna do more after that. I would love to touch a little bit on like the British stuff, but I feel like it's kind of been done every way to Sunday, so I don't know whether I'm gonna try that or not yet. We'll see. I still have some sci-fi stuff I want to work on too.
Do you ever regret killing off a character?
Almost never. I almost never regret killing off a character because I don't kill off characters haphazardly. If they die because they need to die, or because they actually did die. And but there are times when I will put off, like I will literally stop writing for days because I know I'm about to kill somebody and I don't want to, but I know I have to. So sometimes that'll actually block me up sometimes.
If Catherine the Great, Sophie, if she had a choice to choose the life that you wrote for her or her real one, what do you think she would choose?
I don't know. Probably her real life, just because she got whatever she wanted and did whatever she wanted with whoever she wanted. She was the Empress, for crap's sakes. I think that, I don't know, I guess it would just depend on how she felt at the end of her life. And I think that's the difference between how you feel, you know, as a 16, 17-year-old. Would I trade this for something else versus, you know, when you look back on your life, would I want to do anything differently? I don't know that she would. I feel like at the end she was probably pretty happy with the decision she made.
Let's see. This is the last actual question via stories, and then we're going to get into some publishing questions. Would you ever consider doing a fairy or dragon type story? Yes, me and Jan, we're the big fairy dragon people. We love them.
You know, I would. I feel like I'm not great with dragons, but I could do fairies. That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun. It's so weird, sort of the way my mind works. You need that spark, you know. Maybe someday it'll come, and maybe it won't. And I'll just keep doing historical and science fiction. I don't know. We'll see.
So this was actually a question that I asked you before. You can word it however you wish, because I know that you didn't want to like let go of some things because they're like trade secrets. It's about your Queen of Someday being free. How exactly does that help you as a publisher? I mean, as an author, excuse me.
You know, it's really interesting. I think a lot of people are very hesitant to try books by authors that they're not familiar with or that they've never heard of. So asking someone to pay $4.99, $5.99 for an ebook, that's quite a commitment. That's a lot to ask somebody that's never heard of you before and isn't really sure if they're going to like your books. So just as a strategy, when you have a series like I have, sometimes the publishers will opt to make that first one free because, you know, it may be selling pretty well on its own. And then you make it free and you get so many more readers that fall in love with the story that they then go pick up the second book that you might not have gotten. And it really makes a huge difference in the second book sales. Most of the time, you'll see sales on your second book that exceed what you would have gotten with both of them individually, both on regular sale. Just because you draw in that audience that really wants to try something new, but not necessarily, you know, spend $5 on something they might not like. So this way they get to kind of try it, see if they like it, and if they like it, then the rest of the books are up for sale.
Why did you decide to go indie publisher versus something like HarperCollins or Simon & Schuster?
Well, for starters, I don't have an agent right now. I would love to have a literary agent, but I don't right now. And I wrote the Queen books, and I didn't have an agent. And I started sort of the traditional way, as I'd write the book, and then I'd start shopping it to agents. And then if the agents didn't pick it up, I would take it to some of the smaller presses. But with the Queen books, I had sort of started shopping it to agents, and a lot of agents actually wanted it. And then Clean Teen came back with an offer, and I had just worked with them on Losing Logan, and it was such an amazing experience. I had just come off working with Harlequin and a couple other publishers, and it wasn't a bad experience, but I didn't have the level of control that I really wanted, and the level of sort of personal attention that I got when I did Logan with Clean Teen. So when Clean Teen came back with an offer right away, I decided just to take it to them, just because I really liked working with them. So I probably could have taken it to a bigger house. I could have gotten it signed with an agent. But, you know, at the end of the day, I wanted to be somewhere I was comfortable. I wanted to be somewhere that I was working with people I knew I liked. So I went with Clean Teen, and they've done a fabulous job with it.
I know that you had posted a while back ago that you were doing submissions for Clean Teen Publishing. How exactly does that work?
It's sort of interesting. So they had some submissions people leave probably, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, maybe 6 months ago. And so they were looking to build a new submissions team. So the way it works is that when you submit a manuscript to them, it goes to a team of submissions readers. And then it's sort of majority rules at that point. If most of us like it, then we request the full. If most of us don't like it, we'll send a rejection. If we all love it, we'll send it to the actual owners to decide, and then they'll read it and decide. So we're kind of just basically the first line of defense. We weed out anything that's not really in genres that we take, or anything that's really similar to books that are already on our lists, or books we just think would be difficult for us to sell. We had a really great submission come in a little while ago it was a great book, but it was sort of a really odd genre. And we didn't think it was something that we could get into the right hands as far as getting it in front of the right readers. So we ended up having to pass on it, just because even though it was a great book, we couldn't do that book justice. So our team sort of sits together and decides, what books really amaze us, what we're going to take, what we're going to offer on, and then sort of weeds out the rest.
So if somebody decided that they wanted to submit a book to you, does it have to be fully edited and done, or?
It has to be completely finished. We only take full finished submissions, and we realistically, Clean Teen is really set up to market series successfully. They do have some standalones, some do well, some do okay, but when they have a series that they can really market, that's really sort of how they're set up and designed, is to market these series. So they tend to do a lot better. So we prefer books that the first and second book are finished, and there's a third at least on the way, or even more than that on the series. So as long as the first one is finished, you can submit. You can't submit until at least the first one is finished, but we will ask about subsequent books. So if you have the first and second finished, that's usually better.
If you had to tell us about one other book from Clean Teen Publishing, which one do you want to pick out to us readers?
Oh, there's so many good ones. It depends on what you like. They have some really good NA stuff through their adult line, which is Crimson Tree. They have, if you like dragons, they do On the Accidental Wings of Dragons, which is Julie Wetzel, which is a fantastic fantasy series. Or if you like urban fantasy, I really liked Voodoo Moon by June Stevens. That was one of my favorites this year. I love Crushed by Cassie Blake. It's coming out next week. Yeah, on the 4th, I think. And so good. And it's like witches, which is so cool. I love witches. But yeah, I'm a little partial because I get to read them as submissions. If we've taken them, it's because I like them. So I like all of our books.
And if you guys want to check out Clean Teen Publishing, I have just popped the link on there. They have a thing running on the right side of the screen for all the stuff that's free as well. I was sitting here and clicking on them. Got a lot of stuff that's free.
Free books. So if you guys ever want to check out a book and just see if the series is something you like, usually the first books are free. So go check those out. They're a lot of fun.
It's a really good strategy, actually. All right. And what has been your favorite book of 2015 so far?
That's a toss-up because I read 2 really good ones this year. Anne and Henry by Dawn Dalton, which I said is just stellar. I love that one. And I read Bad Romeo by Lisa Raven, which was just amazing. And it's actually new adult. So not recommended for YA audience for sure, I think, just because it's a lot of language. But it was just, it was killing me. It was so funny. So I really liked those. Those were probably my top picks for this year.
And I do have to say that I really love what you had put in the end of book 2 about the domestic violence and stuff, and adding the hotline, because I read a book, I think 2 months ago, that it was about suicide, even though that it didn't actually happen, but there was nothing in the back of the book for people who actually have dealt with it to add it. So that's a very nice thing to add in there to help people. So
I appreciate that. You know, when we did the scene, because there's a violent scene in there, I didn't want to shy away from it because it was so much a part of everyday life then. It wasn't like it is now, where people will shame a husband or there's any kind of recourse for a wife who is abused by their spouse. That they didn't have that then. Wives were property, and husbands could do what they wanted with them. And so it was really important for me, because a lot of times reading something like that in fiction will sort of, if you've been through it, it'll sort of trigger those memories and stuff. And if you are going through it, sometimes it'll make you realize that it's not okay. And so I feel like it's kind of nice to have that just in the back of the book for people that might be struggling or know somebody that's struggling and needs help. So.
And the last question that I have, I guess there's some more in here. This is actually this is a spoiler for book 2. So if you haven't read book 2, I'll give you a couple of seconds here. You can like close your ears and your eyes, so you can't hear me, or take off your headphones or mute the mic or something. Okay, so
right.
So I'm gonna sure. Okay. So at the end of book 2, when the queen comes in after Sophie has her little boy, do you think that was kind of Sophie's last straw of the queen taking her son?
I think definitely that was she's kind of done with her at that point. At that point, Sophie's given literally everything that was asked of her and more to the Empress. And then I think to have the Empress then turn around and threaten to depose Peter and kind of send her away, I think that was sort of the last straw for her. She always wanted to get her son back. Like, that was always the goal. She didn't like being separated. But I think at the end of the day, it was almost more the threat of being deposed that was going to do it than anything, because here she had done everything she'd asked for. She'd even given away her child to the Empress, and then to be sort of passed over and sent home without her son, that was not going to fly with her at all. So I think that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back with the Empress.
All right, and that is all I have for today. So is there anything else that you would like to tell your readers?
Thank you guys so much for coming out always and doing these chats with me. They're always so much fun. I have such a great time on Crosswords Reviews, and I love doing these live chats. And I'm pretty available. So if anybody ever has questions or thoughts or ideas or wants to rant at me, I'm always on Facebook and Twitter, and you guys can always find me there. And I hope you guys love book 3. Go pre-order book 3. It's going to be out of this world. You guys are going to die. I can't even tell you.
No, I'm going to die. And of course, Sherry will be back for book 3. Woohoo!
That's right.
October 26th at 5 p.m. So make sure you mark your calendar. If you want to RSVP for the event via Facebook, you can do so at facebook.com/crossword review, and then just go to the events. They're all listed. So I cannot wait to get a copy of book 3. I know that the e-copy releases in September.
Yeah.
Will you physically have the print copies before that, or not?
I know sometimes they do ARCs and sometimes they get a couple, but it just sort of depends on the print schedule. So I'm not sure, because they did push the ebook release up so far. So I may not actually have books till October. So we'll see.
Dear, I wanted to read it like before the show. All right. Wow. Is there anybody that you would like to give a shout out to?
Shout out to my crazy street team, the Minions. You guys are awesome. Love you guys. And the Clean team, the authors and the street team. You guys are great. And just all my friends and fans. Thank you. Love you guys.
And if you want to sign up for her, what is it? Your Minions, right? That's on your website, because I know I filled something out today.
It's on my website. Yes, you can go over to the website and it's in the contact. So you can, because basically being my minion makes life worthwhile. I'm just saying.
It does.
It does.
So now I'm officially one of your minions. I don't know how I wasn't on there before.
I don't know how you weren't on there before either, but that's awesome. Way cool.
Okay. So
Sweet.
I will catch you in October. Well, I mean, no, I'll catch you before that, but. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on the show, and I will see you again in October.
Thanks. I'll see you guys later.
Bye. Bye. Just so you guys know, again, Sherry will be back October 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will not be a show next week with going to GeekyCon and Indie Book Fest and everything that's been going around here. Like my washer died. I still want to cry about that. There will not be a show next week. Our next show will actually not be until August 15th, and that is for, I forgot her name here a second, Maggie Hall's The Conspiracy of Us, which I'm actually currently reading. It's like right here, laying here. So she will be on August 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And after that, we will have Jacqueline Garlick. I cannot remember what the title of her book is. It's called Lumiere, which actually just got picked up for publication via Amazon because she was a self-published author. So she will be on August 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then also for August 22nd, we've got Kimberly Carless from, I think it's Swoon.
What are we going to do tomorrow?
And she wrote Love, Fortunes,
Mom,
and Disaster, and other disasters.
Mom, what are we going to do tomorrow?
I'll tell you later. Sorry. 4-year-old decided to come in and ask what we're going to be doing tomorrow. And then to round out August, we will actually be having Susan Kim. It's okay, honey. It's fine. Just let it go. And she has to have a hug. We will be having Susan Kim on, as she is one of the co-authors of the Wasteland series. And I actually have an entire 3-book series by her to give away. So, and there's the hand of the 4-year-old. So we've got a lot of great people coming on. If you have a favorite author that you want to see on the show, just grab the link with the author chat information on it, and you can actually find that on my website at crossreviews.com, and then go to live shows and then click author chat, and it is actually down there. I'm actually going to go grab the link for the giveaway, which I will show you here. I've got 2 signed copies, both for Queen of Tomorrow. Right now, again, Queen of Someday is free on Amazon, iBooks, Nook, I guess everywhere. I've got 2 signed copies as well as some swag in here. So there will be 3, 4, 5. There will be 6 winners, and all of this stuff is signed. So I've got some really nice things here. So definitely check out the giveaways, and just so you guys can see, this is signed as well. And I will catch you guys in 2 weeks. If you want to see more, check out my Facebook page, and I will be tweeting and Facebooking from GeekyCon on Friday the 31st, and where I will hopefully get to meet Veronica Roth of the Divergent series and a whole bunch of other people. You can check that out at geekycon.com. And then I'll be going to Indie Book Fest as well on Saturday and Sunday, so you guys can see that as well. So I will catch you guys on the flip side. And I'm going to go finish The Conspiracy of Us. And so far, it's really good. All right. Bye.